Ilan Kelman, who joins us from London. He's a professor of disasters and health in the Institute for Risk and Disaster Reduction at University College London. Professor, thank you so much for being patient and staying with us here. I know you've been waiting for a long time. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the ongoing rescue operations that are underway in Turkey as well as Syria, and the fact that we're still finding survivors 10 days later, because we often hear about the 72-hour golden window where you're most likely to find survivors, and after that, the chance of survival is quite slim. But here, 10 days later, we're still finding survivors. What are your thoughts?
Well, it just shows how important the rescue efforts are. And it is troublesome because approximately $1 million is the cost for every life pulled out of the rubble post earthquake. That's a lot. But it also means that it's lives saved. So, of course, we want to do it. And of course, we want to continue it. We were also very concerned after the earthquake about the temperatures and how cold it was, which reduced the possibilities for survival. The fact that people still are being pulled out alive is not good in terms of the disaster having happened, but it is good in terms of the fact that the international and national response is saving people's lives. It shows what can be done, and it means that the operation should go on until there is no hope at all.
How difficult of a task is this rescue and recovery operation when you look at the region where it struck, in particular Syria, which has already been devastated by conflict for years?
The rescue operation is incredibly dangerous. All credit, all gratitude to the people who are going in, risking their own lives in order to pull out strangers. Part of it is, as you mentioned, the conflict. And there were some reports of rescue workers hearing gunfire. They may or may not have been shot at, but in a conflict zone, in an area where not everyone is necessarily friendly to outsiders, unfortunately, rescuers and humanitarian workers are targets. The other issue is aftershocks. So we know that aftershocks are continuing. There were the two big earthquakes on the first day, and there could be other ones coming, which means that the rescuers themselves are in dangers for continuing collapsing infrastructure, and they could easily be caught and possibly injured or killed in aftershocks.
Earthquakes, of course, are unpredictable, and I think that's one of the particularly scary things about the nature of an earthquake. We can't predict when they're going to strike, but we generally know areas that are earthquake zones that are more prone to earthquakes. Is there anything that can be done so that a tragedy of this magnitude doesn't strike again?
That's exactly it. We know where, we do not know when, so we always have to be ready. For earthquakes, so much comes down to the infrastructure. We say that earthquakes do not kill people, collapsing infrastructure does. But that means planning codes, that means building regulations, that means overcoming corruption and bribery and people who want to shortchange materials to make a bit more money. This takes decades. This takes generations. So we have to start today. It is terrifying that after the 17 August 1999 earthquake in northwestern Turkey killed over 17,000 people, so many deficiencies in construction, so many social issues regarding corruption and bribery and bypassing laws were raised and promised to be rectified. That did not happen. So we see the tragedy now. We have to start today to save lives next year and next generation.
Is there anything that can be done on an individual level to better prepare for a major earthquake? Because I know a lot of people are thinking about it, particularly now, but when an earthquake strikes, especially the first one that hit Turkey, because it was in the middle of the night, most people were asleep, and imagine you'd wake up and you'd be disoriented and you wouldn't be thinking clearly, you wouldn't be thinking all of your plans for when there's a disaster. But is there anything that you can do so that your chances of survival are better?
There is plenty. The challenge is that they're premised on the building standing up, and that doesn't always happen. So, if the structure remains standing, being in bed can be one of the safest places to be because you have some sort of protection, and hopefully, there's not a lot of objects around that can cause significant injury, whereas there may be in other rooms. Part of it is having a personal and family disaster plan. So going online,
Okay.
finding out what would be expected for a disaster readiness kit at home, particularly in your area, and then ensuring that you're able to stock up, keep it ready, and also keep your
Okay.
own skills in terms of being psychologically ready and being able to give first aid. But if
Okay.
the building collapses, it's not easy to deal with that.
Mm.
Certainly, keeping a bottle of water and some food
Okay.
like a granola bar by your bed can help because that can give you an extra couple of days while they
Okay.
try to rescue you. Having shoes beside your bed
Okay.
can avoid injuries related to glass if you're
Okay.
trying to get out afterwards, but we still have to keep the infrastructure standing.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut the interview short because we're out of time, but some really valuable information there. I really appreciate your time. Ilan Kelman joining us from London.
Thank you.